Merge an Illustrator document with a data source file, CSV or XML file, with the Variables panel to create multiple variations of your artwork. You can change the names of participants on event badges or vary images across web banners and postcards without having to redo your artwork. Create one design and then quickly produce variations by importing the names or the images from a data source file. Create custom variations of your design template for different projects, such as printable posters, web banners, and event badges, using the Variables panel. Before you proceed, all you need for data merge is a data source file and a target document. The data source file contains information that varies in each version of the target document, such as the names, photographs, and addresses of the recipients of a form letter. A data source file can be a comma-delimited file, .csv, or an extensible markup language file, .xml. The target document is an Illustrator document that contains the base artwork to use as the template. This document can contain the data field placeholder and the items that remain the same in each version of the merged document. Access the data merge functionality. Data merge is accessible from the Variables panel in Illustrator, Window Variables. The type and name of each variable in the document are listed in the panel. If the variable is bound to an object, then the Objects column displays the name of the bound object as it appears in the Layers panel. You can sort the rows by clicking items in the header bar, by variable name, object name, or by variable type. A. Data set. B. Panel menu. C. Switch between data sets. D. Name of bound object. E. Variable name. F. Variable type. G. Lock variables. H. Make object dynamic. I. Make visibility dynamic. J. Unbind variables. K. Create variables. L. Delete variables. Quick steps for merging data. Prepare a data source file. Data source files should be saved in a comma-delimited .csv or extensible markup language .xml format. Set up your CSV source files. In a comma-delimited .csv file, records are separated by paragraph breaks, fields are separated by commas or tabs. The data source file can also include text or paths that see images on disk. Before importing a CSV file, do the following to let Illustrator identify the variable type. Open your spreadsheet. Specify your data field name in the first row of your spreadsheet. Then, do the following. At the beginning of the data field name, type in its symbol, @ to insert text or paths that refer to image files. The @ symbol is required only in the first line. Subsequent lines should include the image paths. Similarly, at the beginning of the data field name, type a percentage symbol, %, for graphs and a hashtag symbol, hashtag, for visibility. To define the visibility of an object, specify true or false for each data field. Note: the data field names in your spreadsheet should not contain blank spaces. For example, you can specify the data field as company_name instead of company name. Similarly, the paths referring to image and graph files should not contain any blank spaces. For example, the path of an image file should be C:\photos\Billtucker instead of C:\photos\Billtucker. All graph files linked from your data source file should be saved as comma-delimited .csv files. If you get an error message when you type the @ symbol at the beginning of the field, type an apostrophe before the @ symbol, such as @photos, to validate the function. Some applications, such as Microsoft Excel, reserve the @ symbol for functions. Prepare an XML file. Import a data source file. To bind variables to the desired data, import a data source in the Variables panel. You can have only one data source file selected per document. Choose Window Variables. In the Variables panel, select Import. In the Load Variable Library dialog box, select a data source file in CSV or XML format and select Open. You can edit, rename, or delete the data set later by choosing it from the Data Set drop-down menu and editing its options. Select a data set from the data set list in the Variables panel to switch between data sets. You can also select the Previous Data Set button or the Next Data Set button. To apply the data on the artboard to the current data set, choose Update Data Set from the Variables panel menu. To rename a data set, edit the text directly in the Data Set text box. You can double-click the words Dataset to the left of the Dataset text box, enter a new name, and select OK. To delete a dataset, select the Delete icon. You can also select Delete Data Set from the Variables panel menu. Note: the CSV, UTF-8, delimited files containing double byte characters created through Excel cannot be imported in the Variables panel. If you open the same file in text format and then save as CSV with UTF-8 encoding, the file is imported correctly. Bind variables to objects. Use variables to define the elements in a template that you want to change. You can define 4 types of variables: visibility variable, text string variable, linked file variable, and graph data variable. A variable's type indicates which object attributes are changeable, dynamic. The type and name of each variable in the document are listed in the panel. If the variable is bound to an object, then the Objects column displays the name of the bound object as it appears in the Layers panel. Follow these steps to define variables in Illustrator. Select the Make Object Dynamic button to bind the object with the variable. Follow these steps to create a variable without binding it to an object. Select the New Variable button in the Variables panel. To bind an object to the variable, select the object and the variable, and select the Make Visibility Dynamic button or the Make Object Dynamic button. Note: variable names do not support surrogate pair and 4-byte characters. If you use these characters in a variable name, an error message is displayed. Work with variables. You can edit a variable's name or type, unbind a variable, and lock a variable using the Variables panel. Unbinding a variable breaks the link between the variable and its object. Locking variables prevents you from creating variables, deleting variables, and editing variable options. However, you can bind and unbind objects to locked variables. Select the Unbind Variable button in the Variables panel. Edit dynamic objects. You can change the data associated with a variable by editing the object to which it's bound. For example, if you're working with a visibility variable, you change the object's visibility state in the Layers panel. Editing dynamic objects lets you create multiple data sets in the template. Select a dynamic object on the artboard, or do one of the following to automatically select a dynamic object. Alt-click, Windows, or Option-click, Mac OS, a variable in the Variables panel. Select a variable in the Variables panel, and select Select Bound Object from the Variables panel menu. Select all bound objects from the Variables panel menu to select all dynamic objects. Edit the data associated with the object as follows. Edit the text string on the artboard. Replace the image with the Links panel or the File Place command for linked files. Edit the data for graphs in the Graph Data dialog. For all objects with dynamic visibility, change the state of visibility for the object in the Layers panel. Preview the document with each data set. To see how your final graphics will look, you can preview before you export all the files. Use the arrow keys next to data set in the variables panel to navigate and preview the desired data set in your document. Thanks for watching ITMaster channel. Please like and subscribe ITMaster channel.